hair's getting so long.
So, welcome to the Experience Podcast. My name is Dennis, and I am a bridge for people to come from the old world to the new world. As you can see, we're here in beautiful Costa Rica. If this is your first time here at this channel, I welcome you, and I welcome you to like, subscribe, and share this video. And when you subscribe, make sure that you tap on the notification bell. Also, we have some events coming up. One of them is the Remember Experience, November 17th to the 20th. Here in Costa Rica, this is your invitation for that, and there will be a link in the description for that. Also, there will be a donation link underneath this video for donations to fund this channel and also to fund beautiful self-sustaining communities here in Costa Rica, and not only here but throughout the entire world. So today we have a beautiful special guest here with us, and I'm just going to let him share his name and introduce himself. And if you want to share your links, the links will be in the description as well. So
Good day, nice to meet you. I'm Travis Britzke, once upon a time from the lands of Wisconsin. Been in Latin America for 22 years, fully dedicated to permaculture and regenerative agroforestry and the creation of villages, communities, because that's, I believe, and to my experience, where humans best thrive, where we're most capable to meet our needs, our emotional, social, physical needs, living in a village where children are with other children, participating in daily lives, mothers are with other mothers, brothers with other brothers. Yeah, I can share the projects. The name of my project is Regenesis. Regenesis Permaculture, Costa Rica. You can find us on YouTube, and also with the Perma Vida organization, permavida.org/Regenesis. That's where we provide our professional permaculture services, mapping and agroforestry design, consultation, implementation, supervision, and support. And we are preparing to do some more continual coaching. We're connecting with the Regeneration Nation, Costa Rica, as well. That link will be down in the description. That's where our brother Jason Thomas is doing some great podcasts as well. So if you're interested in wellness and what's happening in the Costa Rica world, be sure to check out. He's got a great library of podcasts already. Get yourself caught up and prepare for your trip down here if you're not here already.
Hey, my name is Neil. I'm a multi-dimensional spiritual being expressing through a human body. I'm a coach, and I assist conscious people in their 20s exit the matrix and be with their soul family. And if that's you, my Snapchat's in the description, my email's in the description. So reach out, and that's where I can best support you, is Snapchat and email. So Travis, going to the beginning, like way the beginning, all the way to Wisconsin, what was your life like there, and what did it look like, and what was your way of being while you were still living in the States in Wisconsin?
So yeah, I lived a very typical life. Parents divorced when I was 12, more or less. I was the middle of three boys, raised Catholic, and went to Catholic primary school and high school, and it was great. A lot of blessings in that. I was also very fortunate to grow up on the side of a lake with forest around us, and actually right next door to my grandparents, to my father's mother and father, who, of course, were a big part of raising us three boys. Um, Certainly, yeah, the living close to nature, where we'd often do camping and fishing, and we had the cabin up north. We'd hunt, where my father and older brother would hunt. I actually didn't get into that, um, but being immersed by nature and just having that connection is, I think, very critical, and it made it easier for me to come down here in Costa Rica and live, where it's like such a more full-on immersive nature. The nature kind of, it feels more intense in ways, because the rain, the heat, the ants, the snakes, like all these things, the speed at which things grow here, the trees, it's kind of accelerated. So to continue on that, when I was in high school, say 15, it's kind of when I began with my awakening. And it became clear that there was something not quite right about the world. Like, it didn't make sense. Like, I could see that it seemed people I knew were unhappy.
Mm.
They were basically, their way of living, of consuming, was destroying the planet, destroying ecosystems, in the food system, also just the consumerism of buying the cars and the big houses.
And were you aware of this at the age of 15?
Um, I became like, it was like a small kind of unsettledness. Like, I don't think I would have had the ability to articulate it as much at 15, but certainly it was becoming, it was developing in my awareness. Um, it became really clear, like in university, but that awakening in 15, like at that age, was kind of, it, it set me outside of like the normal culture, normal way of thinking. And this ties in to what we were discussing before this interview. Um, that's as well when I was first introduced to ganja, the Santa Maria, as we call it down here, the cannabis, and, and yeah, I certainly, when I discovered that, like, I became developed a very strong relationship, and smoked a lot, and it wasn't necessarily in my highest good, like, smoking that much, but certainly the you know the shift in perspective, I think, was a very powerful tool in, like, being able to see kind of the craziness and the insanity of the world, like a culture that basically destroys itself because it consumes its resource base and is consuming the resource base of the entire planet. And so, yeah, probably 2 years I was like smoking all the marijuana I could. Um,
So, what was your, if you had a first perception shift with your introduction to cannabis, what would that perception shift have been?
um,
Like, how did it specifically contribute to your awakening?
I think one is just seeing things different. So, because I asked myself, wow, like, the music sounds different, the food tastes different, like, my mind and the ideas that come to me, they're different. Um, and then, so I question, like, well, is it like insanity? Is it like, just, am I not like in touch with reality? And then, of course, just a little bit of investigation, we know that reality is much greater and much beyond the little bit that we perceive. And so our whatever we perceive, our perception, is just a very small piece, through certain filters. And so after those 2 years of just using lots of marijuana, I became very clear in, like, okay, like, I'm going to use marijuana now with this specific intention and purpose, and and see this from a different angle. And, and then so, I believe it, the difference between a drug, something that like is just medicating us and like keeping us fixed in a different frequency, a different vibration, different perspective, and using it, consciously to reevaluate, to see things from different perspectives. The more facets of the diamond, of the hologram, the fractal that we can see, like the closer we are to unity consciousness, to knowing God, the omniscience, knowing like everything, seeing everything from every possible angle and perspective. So, yeah, they're all little pieces of the puzzle, of the great mystery that we find ourselves in.
So you started smoking at the age of, you said 15,
Yeah,
and you've been here in Costa Rica for 20 years.
yeah.
And so what happened between the time that you started using cannabis to moving to Costa Rica, and was moving to Costa Rica a contributor in the use of cannabis?
So after high school, I went to university, and
This was at what age?
so I mean 18. I started university.
So very young.
Yeah, I mean right out of high school. Yeah, and then I studied. Like I began to figure out really what I wanted to study. And so in high school, I didn't apply myself. Like I was bored. It was, it's too easy. Like it didn't have meaning. Then in university, which then, I'd rather encourage people to not go to university. There are other ways to learn. But for me, it was a good experience. Like 20 years ago. And I studied like sociobiology or evolutionary psychology, which is basically how does a species, like humans, organize themselves to best meet their needs, to best like thrive in the environment that they find themselves in. I also studied a lot of child development and anthropology, the other traditional human cultures, and the psychology of wellness, or positive psychology. So like, who's happy and healthy and well, and why? Like, what are the factors in their life that make them be happy and well? Whereas normal psychology focuses on disorder and dysfunction, like what's wrong and what's not working. Like that can be useful to know, and more valuable to know like what really works well and why.
Yeah.
And so that's when I came to the hypothesis that humans are meant to live in villages. Because living in big cities where people don't know one another, where the relations are impersonal, leads to a whole bunch of disorders, a whole bunch of, our genetics, our ancient instincts, which we call emotions, haven't been designed and haven't been honed to live in these giant cities. They were honed to live in large extended families in our tribe. And so when we take those instincts, our genetic blueprints to live in a village and put it into a giant city, people get anxiety, they get depression, they get manic, lots of things that are just from the social setting, and then of course health problems, being sedentary, being seated for so long, and not being where our ancestors were, highly active and highly physical, like every day. Like, sure, you sit for a couple minutes here and there, you sleep, you take a nap, and like you're walking through the forest, the jungle, the mountains, and you're working and gathering firewood and climbing trees to harvest, and all these wonderful, like, diverse activities that are great for your mind and your body and your relationships, because you're doing it with your other friends and the other people whose your survival and your wellness depends on. You're raising your children together in the heart of the village, where the mothers, are every day together with with mothers. Here we often there's this big movement, and as well in around the world of like women's circles where women come together. They make this effort to come together and do like secret things that women do together, and it's very important. And the thing is, it used to be like a daily occurrence that women were together,
like a way of life.
uh-huh. And now, so women like separated into this illusion, this idea of this nuclear family of women separated and not having the connection with their sisters and the aunties and the nieces to like really raise and empower and support one another and be able to talk. Like women really like to talk and share information and in many partnerships of monogamous couples, like a man or a woman, or husband, wife, like there's so many false expectations or like unreasonable expectations that the man or the woman is supposed to like satisfy all the needs of one another, and it's that setting ourselves up for failure. It's going against nature.
This is so epic, and I'm glad you're speaking to it. Like it's okay. So there's the monogamous relationship, and there's the support for the man for the wife, and then there's the support for the wife for the man. But then there's also the support of the other man in the village for the man. There's the support of the other women in the village for the woman. So a monogamous relationship becomes a entire village relationship that's contributing to the well-being of that monogamous relationship. I'm so glad you're speaking of this. It's essential for in the times that we're in like for Neil specifically. Like as I get into a relationship and cultivate that, bringing this with me and knowing that I'm not going to be able to fully support my partner, and I'm not made to do that. But God can assist in that support. Other members of the community can assist in that support, and it's just I find it really beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm glad you clarified because I said the word monogamous in a way that could maybe been interpreted like I'm saying like monogamy is the problem and like that wasn't it. It's really like the restriction to a nuclear family as being like the core unit of human existence and know that like it's too limiting. It's too much in the area of separation and we've as a culture become so separated. For example, my generation, many of us, we were the first generation to have our own bedroom, to have our own car, and of course now everyone is with their own cell phone and their own TV, right? And that's just like over the last 20, 40 years, like really like pulled a large extended family, which we still see here in Costa Rica, like the most rural Costa Ricans and most rural peoples around the world live like still in a large extended family where the nieces and the cousins and the grandparents are all like within walking distance, and it's really beautiful and resilient. And yeah, of course, the isolation that we've been heading towards, of course, with the pandemic, and this where you can't even hug your grandmother, like it's taken to such a new stream that humanity is really traumatized, and as the pendulum swings, I like to think like we've, at least in my culture, we've come to the point of isolation where we're headed back into a more like collectivism, more sharing. Some people might get sucked into this whatever metaverse and like fully forget about this other reality. And I invite you to come and like not get lost in a simulated reality, but really come and like embrace the experience to be human, like embrace these vessels, these bodies, and the actual experiences we can have and the abilities that we can cultivate. Learning multiple languages, learning to play musical instruments, and what this does to our brain and our hemispheres of like and the experience of going beyond what we thought was possible. Learning new skills and there's so much more. But don't get lost in the distraction of the digital. Use technology as a tool, right, to improve the quality of our life, and think not just of our life in this moment, but the life of our children and our children's children, and what is the path that we want to choose. Do we want to create heaven on earth for now and forever, or do we want to create a hell based on scarcity and control and suffering and lack? So choose wisely.
And
Eternity is a long time.
it is a long time. And if you're watching this type of content, you're already on the connection train. You're on the remembering train. You're on the pathway of remembering the infinite connection to every single person on earth. And that's how you're here watching this content, is because you're aligned with this vision, with this way um, that is unfolding. And so after university, at some time, you decided to move to Costa Rica. Um, if you want to, you can go into that. Like, was it a Travis choice or was it a God choice? And then now that you're here in Costa Rica, did you come with the intention of permaculture, or did you come to Costa Rica and then that vision unfolded once you were here?
So I as I was raised Catholic, and seeing all the hypocrisy, like when I was 15 in high school, and seeing like how people, they say they're Catholic or Christian, and like are clearly not living in the ways that Jesus and the Bible are saying. Like I kind of rejected the church, and at a point even then rejected like this concept, this very limited concept of God. And so for several years, through much university, probably considered myself as an atheist, um, but still like seeking wisdom. And I think that wisdom that I was seeking, so I consider the final year, final semester in my high school, like in this private Catholic high school, it was a mandatory world religion class. And of all the classes in high school, I think this was my favorite class. And it was so clear to me that all these religions were speaking the same thing. We're saying, be nice, practice love and forgiveness, live a beautiful life, be grateful. And it was like so difficult to like understand why people in different religions were fighting against one another. Like, it was so very clear. I guess the example of like eating the menu at a restaurant as opposed to eating the entree, eating the meal, and and um, and so I continued, seeking wisdom and studying these world religions, like these wisdom traditions, and not getting stuck on the words or the metaphors of the stories, but like really finding the essence, the universal essence behind them, which I believe, of course, is God's, the deeper message. Um, and I'd also say like I really honored my intuition and like the inner guidance, which isn't mine. It's like that's, I think, God's connection with us. Right. It's really like what does our heart and our gut like say, and even though society or our parents or our friends might say something different, like what is that that deep inner guidance say, and like do we have the courage and the strength to follow it? And of course, like yes, we do. One piece of wisdom that has helped me was this Native American, the indigenous of the North, what we call Turtle Island. I try to not call them American, Native American, because the man that America was named after was bloodthirsty conquistador, um, who perpetrated genocide against the people, and so prefer to not call it America, but the Abya Yala, which is the lands from Argentina up to the Arctic, or Turtle Island, what we consider North America.
Yes.
This is what the people called it, and it feels more wholesome and healing to like get that. The word America, like, yeah, look at the history of that, and think of the Constitution and the fundamentals for what it stands and the forefathers. Like, there's a lot of virtue and great stuff there, and that's important. And like the name, like, okay, wow, it was named after this man who is not really in any way virtuous. So just reframing that. Um, so the piece of wisdom that I found from this indigenous elder, it said, as you go your way in life, you will come to a great chasm. This leap, because the other side is not as far as it looks. And that for a couple of big decisions in life, and they say the big decisions in life that you don't make, they make you.
100%.
And there have been multiple times in my life where my inner guidance was saying, okay, like you're going to let's say you're going to Costa Rica, or you're going back to Panama. And so we follow that inner guidance and say, yes, we're doing it. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. Like, just the guidance is to, yes, go and do it. So I'm going. And in multiple cases, like when you get to that point, or even like right before that point, like before you get on the plane or before you buy the ticket, like there could be a very clear message to not go,
Yes.
to change, like, and so to be aware, like that was just a lighthouse or a guide sign that was like to take us there and get us into a point, and then there can be a shift, and it's actually, no, you're not going there, you're going here.
It's like the universe is testing your commitment to your decision.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It makes me think of the story in the Bible of that sacrificing one's son, and like, okay, because you tell me to do it, and in the end, like, you don't have to make that sacrifice. You just need to like prove you're like committed enough.
Yes. Wow.
So the guidance took me after university. I applied to the Peace Corps in Panama. I'm sorry, I applied to the Peace Corps because I had studied so much cultures, and I knew like the way to like studying culture through books is not a good way to like really know and understand cultures. Like, I had formulated this hypothesis that humans are meant to live in villages, so I wanted to like actually live in villages. I wanted to experience it. And so I applied to the Peace Corps and got accepted. I actually got put on a waiting list because I requested a Spanish-speaking country, and there's a large demand for that. So as I was on the waiting list, I arranged and actually went to teach English in Japan for a year. It was just a little side note.
Wow.
And that was a wonderful experience. I'd be happy to share an hour about that at another moment. But came back and had my assignment for the Peace Corps like ready and waiting for me. And so I went to Panama and lived for 3 years there in the Peace Corps in a very remote village where there were subsistence farmers. They were growing 80 to 90% of the food that they ate with their families. There was no electricity. There were about 200 people in the village, like 100 adults and 100 children. It was a 2-hour walk from a 4x4 pickup truck that would take us another 2 hours to get to a paved road and a bus, or a little like van that would take us to then a bigger city. So it was a really wonderful experience, and actually see and experience what a village is like in village life. And something that they say about the Peace Corps, some people go into the Peace Corps like wanting to know what it's like to be poor, but actually what you learn is what it's like to be rich and come from privilege, because these people, the the necessity to work the land and to grow the food and harvest the food, and if there's a drought or a plague, like these people are really impacted by it, and their children and their elders like die because they can't afford a medicine or a visit to a hospital. Whereas one in the Peace Corps coming from privilege, it's like if that happens, you just take the bus out and you go and stay at a hotel and buy your dinner. And so it was a very powerful experience. And if one is thinking of doing this, like go for it. It's a life-changing experience, and again a good step on a more beautiful journey forward.
Recently, I heard a friend, Artemis, speak to how wealth is what you have when you don't have any money left. And I heard that in what you were sharing about this village, about how they're growing like 70 to 80% of all their food that they're eating. That's wealth. They might not have money, but they have an abundance of their self-grown food. What's your take on wealth and what that looks like um, from a new world perspective?
Yeah. So wealth is really like health. Even the word origin is there. Health and wellness, and there are many forms of capital. It is the typical kind of financial capital, which is money in the bank, which might be US dollars, could be some crypto, but these little digital, these numbers that we move and buy things with. And that's one form of wealth. But there's, I believe in a book of regenerative economics, which looks at wealth more holistically. I think there are 7 or 6 different forms of capital, including social capital, experiential capital, information capital, like all these other things that are really as valuable, and in some cases more valuable than the money papers. Just like we're so accustomed to using money to satisfy our needs, that these other capitals can actually really well satisfy. For example, if you have a grandmother nearby who can watch the children, or an auntie that we don't pay the aunt or the grandma to watch, but they're obviously providing a very valuable service. I can as well. I just share a little bit on like the word economy. The word economy has been like stolen, and it's now used in a way that's actually the contrary of what the word actually means.
So what does it actually mean?
So the economy is like the management of the home, and the ability to like meet our needs for our family. And so the less money you spend, the less you need money, the better economy you have, because your needs are met there, and you're provided for locally. When you use the money, and they talk about like the gross domestic product and this whole thing, that's actually taking us away, creating a dependency on this other thing to meet our needs. And this other thing, unfortunately, the US dollar and the global economic system, right? Like the global manipulative system is controlled and imbalanced, and it favors a few over the many. So the more power we give to that, like I believe the more into hell people are headed. And so I encourage people, like if you understand that financial system is a fraud and a hoax and an illusion based on based on manipulated numbers, like do your best and act in ways that demonstrate that it's bullshit.
All right. So, what are some examples of some ways that when people see that the economic system is to control and manipulate them, and they see that it's actually not for their well-being, and it's actually only for the well-being of these massive corporations such as like BlackRock and Vanguard and Walmart and all these corporations that are not for the well-being of the individual. When an individual sees that, what are action steps and ways of being that individual could take to, first of all, not contribute to those large corporations, but then second of all, actually begin to generate and create a new way of being.